What if the most famous treasure in human history didn't vanish in a blaze of glory, but simply disappeared into the chaos of time? Welcome back to History of Questions, where we explore the mysteries that history leaves behind. Today, we're diving into the disappearance of the Holy Grail, the legendary cup said to have held the blood of Christ. For centuries, it has inspired epic quests, secret orders, and countless myths, from medieval knights to blockbuster films like Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. But strip away the myths and legends, and the archaeological mystery is far more compelling. If the Grail ever existed, why does history itself record no trace of it? The story begins in 1st century Judea. According to Christian tradition, the Holy Grail was the cup used by Jesus at the Last Supper, the meal that became the foundation for the Eucharist. But here's the twist. The New Testament never describes the cup as extraordinary. It is merely a cup with no jewels, no special inscriptions, and no instructions to preserve it. In a world where ordinary clay, wood, or metal cups were common, it's entirely possible that the original vessel was treated like any other object, and eventually lost, broken, or discarded without anyone realizing its future importance. The situation worsens dramatically during the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Roman forces under General Titus laid siege to the city, burning buildings, looting treasures, and scattering its people. The Second Temple, the spiritual heart of Judea, was reduced to rubble. Sacred objects, ordinary objects, and countless artifacts vanished in the flames. If the cup was still in Jerusalem, it may have been carried away as war booty, melted down for metal, or simply destroyed in the inferno. History is full of treasures lost during wars, and the Grail may have been no exception. For nearly a millennium after Jesus, there is no historical record of the Grail. Early church leaders, pilgrims, and inventories do not mention it. In a religion that later became obsessed with relics, this silence is remarkable. Bones, fragments of the true cross, and garments of saints were carefully preserved and documented. But the Grail? Missing. This gap raises the central mystery. Was it lost in war, never considered sacred, or something else entirely? The Grail reappears dramatically in 12th century literature, not in church archives or archaeological records, but in the imagination of poets. Chrétien de Troyes introduced a mysterious Grail into Arthurian legend, a radiant object carried in mystical processions, not yet explicitly Christ's cup. Later writers transformed it into the sacred chalice, linking it to the Last Supper. In other words, the Grail's fame began not with history, but with storytelling, a bridge between myth and the desire for divine power. Medieval Europe's obsession with relics amplified the Grail legend. Churches competed to acquire sacred objects to attract pilgrims, wealth, and influence. The Crusades added fuel to the fire. European knights traveled to the Holy Land, seeking relics rumored to have miraculous powers. Legends later linked the Knights Templar to secret discoveries beneath Jerusalem's Temple Mount, though there is no historical proof. Chaos, war, and ambition combined to make the Grail not just a cup, but the ultimate prize for kings, warriors, and visionaries. Several artifacts have been claimed as the Grail over time, including the Santo Cáliz in Valencia Cathedral, Spain, and the Nantios Cup in Wales. While some parts of these objects date to the 1st century, none have an unbroken historical chain linking them directly to the Last Supper. Scientific analysis may date materials, but archaeology requires traceable custody, something the Grail lacks entirely. Each supposed artifact adds intrigue, but no one can confirm authenticity. From an archaeological perspective, the Grail's disappearance is a nightmare. Authentic artifacts require context, documentation, and provenance. The Grail has none of these. Centuries of silence, destruction, and storytelling have left nothing tangible. Archaeology thrives on evidence, but here we have only legends, myths, and 1,000 years of imagination filling the gap. Material reality may explain the disappearance more simply. Ancient cups were fragile. Clay cracked, wood rotted, metal was melted down and reused. Even if the cup was preserved for a few decades, it likely did not survive centuries. Ordinary materials in extraordinary circumstances often vanish without a trace, swallowed by war, time, and human necessity. The Grail could have been lost simply because it was never extraordinary in the physical sense. The Grail may have vanished physically, but symbolically, it grew stronger. Over centuries, it became a metaphor for divine grace, spiritual enlightenment, and the ultimate quest for purity. In Arthurian legend, only the purest knight could achieve it. Its disappearance from history may not be about a missing object, but about the evolution of an idea, a treasure beyond material reach, inspiring human imagination and ambition. Ultimately, the disappearance of the Holy Grail is a story of war, chaos, lost objects, evolving traditions, and the power of imagination. It may have been destroyed, lost, or never extraordinary to begin with. But the legend continues to inspire treasure hunters, historians, filmmakers, and dreamers. The Grail survives not in museums or vaults, but in the human imagination, a relic of mystery that refuses to die. Here on History of Questions, we explore the gaps where history falls silent and legends rise. The Holy Grail may never be recovered in stone or metal, but its story continues to captivate the world, reminding us that some mysteries are far greater than the objects they claim to preserve.